In the grand tapestry of history, some threads burn brighter than others, woven with faith. They tell a story of fabulous wealth born from a vow of poverty and a legacy of honor that ends. This is the story of an order that rose from nothing to command the destiny of Christendom, only to be uttered. This is the echo of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Templar. Our story begins not in the gilded halls of Europe, but on the dusty, blood-soaked roads of the 12th century Holy Land.
The First Crusade had succeeded in capturing Jerusalem, but the victory was a fragile one.
For the thousands of Christian pilgrims who braved the perilous journey to see the holy sites, the greatest danger was not on the battlefield, but on the bandit-infested roads leading from the coast to the holy city. They were robbed, enslaved, and slaughtered with impunity. In this crucible of chaos and faith, in the year 1119, a French knight named Jacques de Molay. They presented themselves to King Baldwin II of Jerusalem, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Their mission was simple, humble, and seemingly impossible: to form a monastic order dedicated.
They would be a fusion of two of the most powerful forces of the medieval world, the monk and the knight.
King Baldwin, desperate for any measure of stability, granted them a headquarters in a wing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount, a site believed to be the ruins of the original Temple of Solomon. From this sacred location, they took their name, the Templars. For the first decade, their existence was a testament to their vow of poverty. They were so poor, legend says, that the original 9 knights had to share horses, with 2 men riding a single beast. This image of humility and brotherhood would become their iconic seal, a powerful symbol that would, in time. They wore discarded clothes, relied on donations for food, and their numbers remained small. They were a noble but seemingly insignificant footnote in the grand drama of the Crusades. A tiny but that was about to change. They were about to find a champion who would transform them from a band of poor brothers into the army of God.
The Templars' transformation from obscurity to legend can be credited to one of the most influential men in Europe, Bernard of Clairvaux.
A charismatic abbot and a spiritual powerhouse, Bernard saw in the Templars the physical manifestation of his ideal Christian warrior. In 1129, at the Council of Troyes, Bernard championed their cause with fiery eloquence. He authored a treatise in praise of the new knighthood, which laid out the moral and spiritual framework for the order. This was a theological masterstroke. It gave the Templars a divine mandate, elevating them above the secular knights of Europe. Soon after, the Pope issued a papal bull, Omnidatum Optimum, which placed the Templars under the direct protection and authority of the papacy alone.
They were exempt from local laws, they paid no taxes, and no king or bishop could command them. They answered only to the Pope.
This unprecedented autonomy, combined with Bernard's powerful endorsement, opened the floodgates.
Sons of noble families flocked to join their ranks, eager to earn salvation with a sword in hand. The Templars became an institution. They established a vast network of commanderies across Europe,
which acted as recruitment centers, training grounds, and logistical hubs that funneled a constant stream of men, money, and supplies to the Holy Land. On the battlefield, they were magnificent, clad in their iconic white mantles adorned with a simple red cross. They were the shock troops of the Crusader armies, bound by oaths of absolute obedience. They were forbidden from retreating unless outnumbered 3 to 1. They fought with a disciplined ferocity that terrified their enemies. At the Battle of Montgisard in 1177, A force of around 500 Templars helped lead a small Crusader army to...
They were the tip of the spear, the unbreakable shield, a symbol of Christian might in an age. The Templars' military prowess was matched only by their organizational genius. Their vast network of properties across Europe and the constant flow of capital to fund the Crusades, the world's first multinational banking system. The world's first multinational banking system.
A nobleman wishing to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land faced the immense risk of being robbed of his gold along the way. The Templars offered a solution. The nobleman could deposit his gold at the Templar commandery in London or Paris
and receive a coded letter of credit.
Upon arriving in Jerusalem, he could present that letter at the Templar headquarters and withdraw his funds in the local currency.
They had, in effect, invented the traveler's check.
This system was built on the one currency the Templars possessed in abundance: trust.
They were seen as incorruptible. Their network was secure, and their reach was unparalleled.
Soon they were not just transferring funds for pilgrims, but managing the finances of Europe's most powerful figures. The Paris Temple became the center of European finance, a fortress bank that held the wealth of nations. They managed estates, collected taxes, and provided loans. Their fleet of ships dominated Mediterranean trade. They owned vast tracts of land, farms, vineyards, mills, and even the entire island of Cyprus for a time. The paradox was staggering. The poor fellow soldiers of Christ had become the wealthiest and most powerful corporation in the world.
Their iconic seal, two knights on a single horse, once a symbol of their poverty, now seemed a distant, almost ironic memory. Their success was their strength, but it also sowed the seeds of their destruction. By the dawn of the 14th century, the golden age of the Crusades was over. The last Christian strongholds in the Holy Land had fallen. The Templars, their original mission now obsolete, returned to Europe, but they were not humble retirees.
They were a standing international army, immensely wealthy, secretive, and accountable to no one but the Pope. Nowhere was this threat felt more keenly than in France. The French throne was occupied by King Philip IV. Philip was a modern monarch, a ruthless centralizer of power who believed in the absolute authority of the king. He was also ambitious, perpetually at war, and catastrophically in debt. And his single largest creditor was the Knights Templar.
From his palace on the Île de la Cité, Philippe looked across at the imposing Paris Temple.
He saw an organization whose power rivaled his own, one whose immense, untaxed wealth could solve all his financial problems.
A plan began to form, a conspiracy of breathtaking audacity and cruelty.
With the help of his cunning chancellor, Guillaume de Nogaret, Philip began a secret campaign of propaganda, spreading malicious rumors about the Templars.
Whispers circulated in the dark corners of the court. Tales of secret initiation rites, of...
He needed a pretext, and heresy was the perfect crime, a charge so vile it would strip the knights of their heroic benefice. He found a pliable ally in Pope Clement V, a Frenchman who owed his position to Philip, effectively making him a pawn of the French crown. Under immense pressure, the Pope remained silent as the king laid his trap. The order was given in secret, dispatched to every corner of the kingdom.
In a single, coordinated military operation, every Templar in France was arrested.
Caught completely by surprise, the warrior monks, accustomed to open battle, found themselves trapped in a chaotic melee they could not win. The charges leveled against the Templars were as shocking as they were baseless. They were accused of denying Christ and spitting on the cross during their secret initiation ceremonies. They were accused of idolatry, of worshipping a demonic head known as Baphomet. They were accused of institutionalized sodomy.
Gladly mine. These charges were designed to horrify the public and justify the king's actions. To obtain the proof he needed,
Under brutal, systematic torture, the will of even the most hardened warriors was broken.
Freemasons. They were stretched on the rack, their feet were roasted over fires, and they endured unimaginable agonies. Still successes. The news sent shockwaves through Christendom. The confessions, extracted through pain and fear, where Pope Clement, despite his reservations, was forced to act. In 1312, he formally dissolved the order.
But the story was not over. In March 1314,
To hear their sentence of perpetual imprisonment. But at that moment, something within the old Grand Master snapped.
He had been promised mercy for his confession, but now faced a life in chains. He found his courage one last time. In a loud, clear voice that stunned the crowd, he recanted his confession.
He declared that his confession had been coerced by the agony of torture, and that he was ready to die for the truth.
King Philippe was enraged. There would be no more trials. They were bound to the stake, and the pyre was lit.
As the flames rose, legend claims that de Molay issued a final, chilling curse, summoning. Whether a curse or a coincidence, Pope Clement V died just 1 month later. King Philip the Fair died in a hunting accident before the year was out.
The Grand Master's final prophecy had come true. But it was too late for the order. With the stroke of a papal pen,
King Philip seized their vast assets in France, though he found far less liquid wealth than he had hoped. The surviving Templars were pensioned off or absorbed into other monastic orders, vanishing into the fabric of medieval society. But an organization so powerful, so secretive, and so dramatically destroyed does not simply disappear. In the centuries that followed, the story of the Templars grew far beyond the historical facts. They Were they the secret guardians of the Holy Grail, the cup of Christ, which they had discovered beneath the Temple of Solomon?
did they possess the Shroud of Turin?
Did the surviving knights flee with their legendary treasure fleet, escaping to Scotland or Switzerland to form the basis of the Freemasons?
And hidden treasures?
These myths, though unsupported by mainstream historical evidence, speak to a deeper truth. The Templars captured the human imagination. They represent a powerful archetype, the noble warrior betrayed.
Their story is a cautionary tale about the intersection of power, faith, and finance. We may never uncover all their secrets or find their lost treasure, but their story continues to resonate.